such a star-studded panel, and I did a little digging into what everybody does and what you've built, and it's just so phenomenal. I'd love for you to take a moment to describe what you've built and what you've done, and then we'll get into some more specifics of how you came about getting here.
For sure.
Starting off with Manu.
I guess I'll start then. Thank you. It's really nice to meet you. James has said some incredible things, so I hope we can download later.
Absolutely.
I'm Manu. I'm a serial founder. This is my third company, and I feel like I've learned bits and pieces of what it is through my previous experiments. But essentially what we do at SpawnStar is think of it as a union between Foursquare and Pokemon Go.
Love it.
So we use geofencing technology, but we throw gamification into it because nobody does anything without incentives. And we have one of the most powerful data engines in the planet.
Amazing. I love that concept because just going to an event is one thing, but having something fun to do, having a reward potentially available, being able to connect with like-minded people, that's wonderful. So amazing job.
Thank you. It's sticky, right?
It is. It is. Ida, please share.
Hi everyone, my name is Ida. I'm CEO and founder of Lomotera. Basically, I think everyone here used the Carfax. We made a property facts kind of thing. We are giving a history of the property, current, future risk, and we are telling you how all of those risks are affecting your property value, tax return. And this is working at the parcel level. That means like it's working for all of the industrial, residential, commercial, whatever you are thinking, and we are automating whole 6 to 8 months process of manual work with AI. The only thing you need is the address of the property. You don't need any sort of expertise.
That's wonderful. And what I love about your work is that not only does it save time and money, but the focus on the environment and just being able to see and realize those goals, that's phenomenal for local communities as well as countries as a whole. So well
Thank
done.
you.
Marjan, over to you.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Marjan. I'm founder, CEO of DocChief. I'm a lawyer by training, and I spend most of my life as a lawyer working with the startups, with companies on the business side of it. Inside, I'm in general counsel. And it was always a passion of mine to bring more efficiency and forward-looking capability, maybe mindset to startups. And this is my second company. So in the previous one, I also started facing the same inefficiencies as a founder. And that was the turning point for me that I thought, okay, let's use the technology and make it a much more efficient process for both sides of the aisle.
Checking 1, 2. Can you hear me better now? Is it on? I'm just going to maybe speak louder or hold on to one of them.
So, hi everyone, I'm Sofia. I believe that I was actually the first female founder accepted by International Accelerator, or the second. Nino and Nina were the first ones. And my company is something different from tech. It's food tech, actually. So what we do is we produce wine ice cream. And although the combination of wine and ice cream may seem attractive, the process behind it is highly complex, and the main reason is because of the difference in freezing points. So specifically, the freezing point of wine is much lower compared to the freezing point of ice cream, and what we developed is a food technological process that actually increases the freezing point of wine and encapsulates the wine content within the basic ice cream mixture. So the end result that you get from this product is 1 cup of ice that can have equivalent effect as drinking a glass of wine. And you will be able to try it today at 5:30 in the other room.
Get drunk on ice cream.
Yeah, so Marjan, coming to you, I was here for your conversation earlier in the day, and I was wearing my investor hat, and I've been on the other side of the table too. So really you're making life so much easier for investors as well as founders, and way to go. And Sophia, in looking up what you do, first off, just the chemistry involved in what you do, I find that phenomenal, and just bringing that to food culture, and also the focus on clean ingredients and just being able to describe exactly what's going into your products. That's wonderful. So thank you for doing that. Now, there's such a wealth of perspectives, of cultures, of backgrounds uh, on the panel here. I'd love to get a sense of what led to your startups. What was that spark? What was that moment that made you realize this is what you want to do? And were there any experiences along the way that helped shape that moment?
For sure. Mine actually works.
Yours is working. Amazing.
So I told the story a little earlier for who was here, that in 2024, South by Southwest brought us in to work with the San Antonio Spurs because they had a big activation here at Lady Bird Lake that was open-ended, so they couldn't quantify how many people were in the space. And so I had this aha moment. At the time, I was running my previous company, which was one of the first NFT platforms that was using Web3 for real-world assets. So we were using Web3 as a way to build ledgers, similar to what you're doing for property, for collectibles. And so we had all this technology to kind of like mint these NFTs. And I was like, why don't we just do NFT check-in points across the different locations? And it went really well. We were able to kind of like quantify a bunch of data. We gave away a bunch of prizes, and I was like, this is interesting. Then literally, I believe like right after or right before, I don't know, I think it was like pretty much at the same time, because I was so engrossed with teams that I was doing a project for the NFL at PA during the Super Bowl in Vegas, and the NFL PA ended up pulling the event that they had in Vegas in the week of the Super Bowl because they couldn't raise enough sponsorship dollars to pay for the venue. And I was like, something seems to be happening with experiential marketing. And so I called up my friends that worked at Coke Studio. That's their event behind us right now, so it's really funny. I called Universal Music. I spoke to the 40 CPG brands that we had built things for in the past and asked them, what's happening? Why is it that you guys are not spending money with experiential marketing anymore? The world is still physical, right? And the answer was very simple. We can't justify ROI because there's no way to grab data. So that was the moment that I was like, there's a whole business in this, and I feel like I should stop everything else that I'm doing.
I love that.
And
that
here we are.
clarity in that moment.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay. I have a mic.
You have a mic.
Okay. I have an interdisciplinary background in architectural engineering, urban planning. I taught at the University of Arizona. It's a whole journey. Then I started working for a couple of startup companies as a director. The company before I started Lomotera, I was working with lots of real estate developers, investors, and I was walking one of the developers through the reuse plan that we developed for them. And all of a sudden, he starts screaming, saying like, I want more units. You guys are giving me more cost of sustainability, resiliency. And our CEO walked in. She was like, oh, this is not good. He's old client. And I was just, give me 5 minutes. I will explain. If you weren't agree, we can change the plan. And I started explaining how being more sustainable and resiliency and predicting the future could help him to save money, get more tax return, especially based in Houston, Texas. So he got like really happy, saying, I do this for 25 years. No one ever told me this. We always walked through like our sins, and I didn't want to spend lots of money. That was the moment that I think like, I have interdisciplinary background. We have lots of data, but people are not using those data. Why we are not creating something easy to use? You don't need any kind of like expertise. You don't need to go to different consulting companies. You can save money, and you can see the future before making any decision. So that's why I come up with the idea of the Lomotera. And
amazing.
yeah.
Well done.
Okay. So for me, as I went through law school, I always knew I didn't want to be a law firm type of lawyer. I didn't like it. I loved law, but I was more interested in its intersection with business. So right after the law school, I went straight to work for a consultancy firm on the IP and business development side. I was on their legal team. And we used to work with large companies like even McDonald's, who would come, and Disney on one side, on the other hand, smaller companies. And they all needed different kinds of services. One of them was on the legal side that we would help them. One of the things always bugged me was how much of the problems they were facing could be prevented much earlier if they knew, especially mid-size and small-size companies, if they knew the pitfalls, if they had someone guide them properly. It was about the same time that the startups had become a very hot topics. I was living in Massachusetts, Cambridge area. So I got involved as mentor with the startups in that environment in a couple of accelerators. I thought, okay, that's my chance. I can get to work with these entrepreneurs. That experience opened a new world for me. On one hand, I learned, okay, I'm in the right place. I love entrepreneurship. But I also realized the problem for these startups is not that they don't have the knowledge, it's that they don't have the capacity, the time, the bandwidth to implement the advice that I'm giving them. Yes, it's very valuable, they really appreciate it, but who is going to implement it for them? And later on, fast forward, I became a founder myself, not in this company, another one. And then I realized, oh my God, even I can't do those things because now I have hundreds of other things to do. And I was also learning a lot about the technology. We were using already machine learning and AI in the other one. And it occurred to me, okay, why not using that for all of those things that I know startups can benefit from, and me, instead of advising them, this is how you should do this, I build a tool for them that it actually does the job for them. And that's why I'm here.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So again, I believe I'm the fun part of it. I started, I always wanted to build something on my own, and I believe for any of you maybe here that are considering it, I believe starting it sooner rather than later is always the best answer. For me, I thought, so basically it started like this. First of all, my family, they're also entrepreneurs. And actually, they've built successful companies, but I also have a little brother to run into it. I've been always the child in the family that decides to go the opposite way of what everyone else thinks and does. So basically, I was back home at university, still doing my undergraduate degree back from London to North Macedonia, where I come from, and I was sitting, and my mother started to just discussing something with me, and I was eating ice cream at the time. I'm a big fan of ice cream, and I thought, well, why isn't there like wine inside this ice cream? And then I was like, wow, that's actually a very good idea. And I was like, where can I buy this? That was my first idea. And I started like Googling, because I was on my computer back then. It was 2016. And then I realized that you can't actually buy it because the freezing point of ice cream is like way lower compared to the one of ice cream. And there was just one thing available, but it was infused, meaning most of the alcohol content actually evaporated. So then I thought, that's impossible. And at the evening, like I remember it was 2 a.m., I woke up and I tried to make wine ice cream, literally. And of course, it didn't work. And then I started just digging into it more and more. I became kind of obsessed with it. My background then was in finance. I was about to actually get like a job at Moody's, the rating agency. but I decided to quit and sign for a master's degree at Warwick University, where actually later on I developed a proof of concept and became known as the wine ice cream girl. So basically, my main reason for starting was, first of all, I spotted this opportunity, and second, I realized it's better to do it now while I still don't have the risks. For example, when later on, when the risks are bigger, you get the family, you get like other people that depend on you. So I was like, why not try it now while I still can? So that was the turning point.
Amazing. All of your journeys have been so wonderful. And, just building on what Sonia was saying, that work-life balance, making time for family, having time for your business. Uh, Describe some of that for me, and I'll just open it up to the panel, whoever would like to answer. How does that look like for you? And describe, some of the hiccups along the way in getting to this point in your career and your journey, because it's important for founders or aspiring founders, I should say, to know that it's not always rosy. There are those days that almost make us give up, but then there's still that spark and that energy that helps us continue. But how do you manage that work-life balance and manage to stay sane with all the demands of a startup?
So I'm actually a best-selling author now. And it was something that helped me cope a lot with the founder life. There's books over at the prize station at Spawnstar if anybody wants to. Amazing. I'm actually going to gift you one as well.
I would love that, yes.
And it's called Becoming an Alpha and Letting It All Go. I think
I love it.
The letting it all go phase for me was the hardest to kind of like grasp, because I've been a founder now for 12 years, 13 years. And I started my career in finance. You've seen it all. Yeah, and I'm in blockchain, so crypto, so I have seen it all at this point. And I had a small stroke when I was like early 30s in my eye, because I was it was the end of the year in 2022. FTX had just gone under, so
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It was good. It was just in my eye, but it was like such a wake-up call. And what happened was, I had a big team back then. We were over 20 people on payroll, and we had secured. I had raised about $3 million already for that company. We were about to close a big Series A. FTX went under. Funding dried out in the whole ecosystem, and it was the end of the year. I remember being at this Christmas party, and I didn't have enough money in the bank to pay my team, and I was freaking out because I was like, how am I going to, get to Christmas without having money to pay these payrolls? And so I remember, I was on this holiday party, and I was like really upset sitting outside, and this guy sits next to me, and he's like, hey, what do you do? And I really didn't want to talk, so I was like, I'm a futurist. and he was like, oh, I'm a futurist too. And I was like, thanks. And so he eventually I opened up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in crypto, and it's like, this is everything that's happened. And I'm like, and he's like, actually, I have someone, and the first thing he said to me was like, how many times in your life has it been worse than at this moment? And I was like, so many. And he's like, and how many times have you sorted it out? And I was like, every time. He's like, so the data shows that you got this. And then the next day, he actually introduced me to an investor. That investor decided to commit on the 1st of January. That's the day that I had this stroke, actually, because I think I was so relieved from it. I don't know, like that. I looked in the mirror, and my eye was like, looked like a Jackson Pollock, just a vein had exploded. And I was like, I can't live like this. Like, this is not sustainable. And I went to Esalen, I think 3 weeks later, and then I did some plant medicine work as well, and have meditated every single day since. And it's changed my life. And it's been the process of kind of just getting that out and putting that into words and processing. And I think that's why the book is so important. It's very deep. It has a lot of dark nights of the soul in there. And as a founder, we front load a lot of those. But I wanted to help people.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know that's not an easy memory to talk about, but it's important, and it's such a visceral reaction sometimes that one has to events that are outside of their control, right?
Yeah.
So, quick advice from you. Should I be holding on to Bitcoin or?
Yes, buy more.
Yes, hodl, diamond
Buy,
hands?
buy more.
Okay.
Buy more. The
All
whole
right.
system's about to implode.
That's what I
and
thought, but I just wanted to.
Bitcoin and ETH.
Yeah.
But don't go too crazy on the alternative
okay.
stuff. And it's unfortunate, but I am going to have to run in 1 minute because
Okay.
I'm moderating another panel with Zach
Well,
Levi.
look at you. Yeah. Well, I will be reading that book, and
I will. I
I'd love
want
to
to gift it
connect
to you.
and,
Yeah,
thank
we'll
you.
connect.
Thank you.
But thank you
Well,
for holding this
It's been such
space.
an inspiration to meet you.
And meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
But I'll hear one more story before I
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Yeah, actually for me, I'm international, so I came to US to do my grad school almost like 14 years ago. You know, like being international, it's hard. You need to do a TOEFL exam, you need to do admissions, scholarship, visa situation, always like it's stress. So the most stressful point for me was the day that I got award in a huge ceremony as a first female leader. That was the day that I got laid off by my boss. Yeah, she took
highs and
me.
lows.
She took me over coffee. I thought that she's going to like encourage me, and she was just like, "We can't do this." Like, I was like, "What?" She was like, "I cannot compete with you." I was like, "This is not a competition." So it's like whole situation, and I was like, the moment that I walked onto the stage, I had lots of tags, but I didn't have a title. I didn't have anything. I just say like, "Hi everyone, my name is Aida. Thanks for choosing me as first female leader for whole week in this conference." And then I walked on, I started thinking, and then with encourage and stuff, I started to like do the whole thing. I was like, I already built connections. I have idea. I have my team. I need to start this. But the way that I stress relief is that I go to Pilates every day, every day. I do Pilates. I do like try to do meditation. I'm not good at it, but Pilates is
neither,
really
but I learn. Yeah.
You know, start
Yeah.
with guided. That's like,
Oops.
everybody thinks that they're just going to sit down and meditate.
Yeah.
It's really hard to just sit and meditate.
Yeah.
I have a 5-year meditation practice now, and I still do guided most days.
Amazing. Good to know.
Joe Dispenza.
Oh.
Joe Dispenza changed my life as well. I went to 2 of his retreats. But I'll see you guys over in the other room.
Absolutely.
And I have a book copy for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
We're
you.
just dropping things, but
We're just dropping everything. Oh, wait, does anybody want this mic? Any interest in it?
I think, yeah. So I'll move one over
Yeah.
closer to
Please.
you. And
So about the work-life balance, we all have our own definition of balance. I think I've got it. If you ask my sister, I'm a workaholic. I need to work on that. But I think the most important thing that I've found that it can help me with, it has helped me a lot, is having the right team that I can rely on, and knowing where to delegate, while at the same time, while we are delegating, at the same time being ready to fill in each other's shoes. I remember early on, it was in the first 3 to 4 months of us launching, we had gotten into Techstars Boston, which it was a very competitive program, and we were all preparing for a big demo day, preparing for, it was a big deal. And we worked very hard towards that. 2 weeks before, maybe even less than 2 weeks, my father got a heart condition, and he got scheduled for heart surgery with very chance of survival. So I had, everything worked out well, he was fine, but I had 24 hours to get to him, international, going outside of the US. And it was just me and my co-founder who was CTO. So all it took from me was to tell her that I have to leave, and now you are the one who has to go and pitch. She had never pitched in her life. I mean, we had practiced together, but not in. She hadn't pitched to a group of like I don't know hundreds of people watching, and but I knew she's gotten it, and she was very capable of delivering it. I managed to get back on time. Everything went well. And after I returned, again, she handed over to me everything. Later on, a year after that, she herself got some health problems, serious health issues. She had to undergo chemotherapy. And again, if we didn't have that support and a very good, previously planned and worked on partnership, we couldn't have gotten through it.
For me, everything's been smooth, and I guess I'm just super lucky. No, I'm joking. You should try my product. No, I mean, of course, like it's ups and downs, like, but we have a very interesting saying in our country. It's like every mountain carries its like burden in a way. So what it means was you just figure out things as you go. That's like what being an entrepreneur is. If I could give you the exact recipe, it's being proactive and chasing opportunities, being resistant, and figuring it out along the way. That's the recipe from my experience. But challenges are like part of the trip. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be like, you need to know that there will be many challenges, and you need to be prepared to figure it out as you go. At first, I thought that the biggest challenge for me was building a manufacturing plant, which I did back home from scratch. Why? Because the big contractors at the time didn't want to work with me because they thought you don't have product market fit. And I was like, how can I have product market fit if I cannot produce the product, right? So they're only like, in North Macedonia, it's a very small country. There are only like two producers of ice cream, like too big. They export to US as well, but they didn't want to take me because it's different. Like the process is different. The machinery is the same, but it should be changed. It should be readapted, and no one wanted to readapt their factory for something that has no product market fit. And my parents were very happy at that moment. They were like, she is going to quit now, great. But then I was like, no, I'm building my own manufacturing plant. So, I mean, imagine how I felt at the time. It was very discouraging. And then, like, once I built it and I proved proof of concept in my country, and from zero you go to, in 1 year, you go to 8 cities, expansion, like more than 100 locals, like you grow rapidly. Then another challenge occurred, and this challenge was I was pregnant and I was with a child, and then I was like, now what am I going to do? I'm the CEO, and my doctor was like, you can't stress, you need to rest, and I was like, okay. Well, of course, like you don't have the balance, the business suffers. And then my child was born. I love her. Her name is Nikki, and she's the most adorable thing in the world. And then like I thought, okay, now I'm going to the US because I was supposed to come here. And they were like, but how will you go to the US? You have a child that's 10 months old. And I was like, I'm carrying her with me. Both grandmothers got almost into a stroke when they heard that. But I mean, that's part of being an entrepreneur. I won't go into challenges, but take into consideration that if you want to become one, you will have a lot. And you will need the passion, persistency, and figuring it out on your way if you want to succeed.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much. Now, this is International House. We all have international roots. I love that saying, every mountain kind of bears its own burden, and that just speaks to the resilience that you have to kind of nurture within you. Um, Tell me a little bit about what you've drawn from your own roots or cultural influences that have made the journey smoother, easier, or something that you've even just thought about in hard times or good times and thought, hey, this gives me strength.
Um, Honestly, like I would say, like I always, whole life, I fight for women rights. So I'm coming from a country that women rights is a little bit challenged. So anytime that I was like suffering or I was like having a hard time, I was always thinking that I'm going to build this, I'm going to be that person who is encouraging the next generation that they can do. If they want, they can do. And it's not only me, it's like all of the females I know that, and my sector is really male dominated, really. I work in climate tech, property tech, it's like really male dominated. But I never give up, it was like, it's hard, but I always like think about this, that my passion is about like women rights and encouraging women. That's why I was like always like, I will be that person, even so I'm suffering sometimes. But I try to do my best, and that's my passion. Honestly.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, same story. Coming from a country that uncertainty in almost every aspect of life is a daily reality. And when you grow up in that environment, you can't always be stressed out. You just come up with coping mechanisms, but also you learn not to panic over everything and just be prepared. Be prepared. So I think that has made me a very type of planner. I want to think about all the things that can potentially go wrong, prepare for it in advance, while at the same time appreciate that uncertainty is a part of life. And when you are a founder, that is a big part of your life. So I think that resilience is something um, I, I learned and internalized growing up.
For my country, I would say if you can make it in my country, you can make it anywhere. Because it's interesting. Our country is very small and very laid back. Like the people are somewhat, for example, you go to a meeting with a potential client, and we all know what the meeting is about. So then they are like, let's go and discuss it over lunch. Okay. And then you sit there, and out of the 2-hour meeting, 1 hour and 45 minutes, you discuss about how good the food is, the weather, and everything aside from the business. And it's the last 15 minutes where they give you like this opportunity to discuss about the business. And as soon as the good part hits, they're like, let's continue this next time over another lunch. I have to run. And I'm like, then what were you doing like the first 1 hour and 45 minutes? And actually, that's how it works. That's our culture. It's very laid back, and it's very slow. And I've never fit in that in that culture because it's not that I don't want to build relationships, but like when I go to business meetings, I want a business meeting. And this is what I love about the US mostly, actually. It's because when you sit and you have this business meeting, it's like pure business. They either want you or they don't want you, but in 15 minutes, you're going to know what you stand on. In our country, it's like it will take you 2 months to know what you stand on, and maybe not even then. So I believe persistency and resilience in my country is what I gained most. And if you make it in my country, as I say, with so little opportunities and so many people to chase those opportunities, you can make it and that patience that you develop there, trust me, you will make it anywhere.
Thank you all. I want to now turn to like being here in the moment at South by Southwest in Austin at International House. Um, give me one action item that you would love to see come out of today from this conversation. What is it that you're working on that, we, everybody present here, might be able to help with? Now, it could be, hey, we're looking for such and such role at the company, send us referrals. Or it could be, hey, we've seen some of the QR codes up there, sign up, test something, send us a review. Or it could be, hey, we're looking for funding, and here, send us an email for a data room. It could be anything, but what is that one ask in the moment that you would like for everyone in the audience to hear?
Okay, I think I will go first. We are doing the fundraising and we are trying to close seed round. Anyone who is interested, we will be happy to give the data room access to them and talk with them, and I will be happy to walk them through our demo. If you know anyone who is interested in insurtech, property tech, we'll be happy to talk with them as a potential investor and walk them through our demo.
Fantastic.
So if you're a founder looking for fund and preparing for fundraising, if you're an investor, if you're a lawyer, I want to ask you, stop by at my desk, scan the QR code, and give the platform a try. For 1 month is free. Yeah, I would love to see you using it and giving me your feedback.
I will use your platform today.
So again, if you want 5:30 or 5, or maybe if it moved 5:30, I don't know, because we're behind schedule. There's a wine ice cream tasting in the other room, and you can just come and taste the product and give us your feedback, because you're basically part of our R&D team now. What we're looking for during this trip is very specific. Actually, I'm looking for restaurants and bars that would sell wines. And if you have any intro for us, first try the product before giving us the intro, of course, then please come forward and speak with me. Regarding investors, we already started rolling the wheel with revenues, as we have like clients that are committed, wineries. However, if it's a strategic investor, we might be open to it. But our priority is always clients. Thank you.
Well, we could go on, but I'm wanting to leave some room for questions. But just leave us with one thought that's inspirational, something that you would want everybody to meditate on and take from your experience.
I would say don't give up with hearing no's. If you are not open to the rejection, don't start being entrepreneur. I think if you are entrepreneur and you are creative, that's why we say when we are doing PhD, you are going to build a way always. So if you are entrepreneur, you need to be open for the rejection. You will hear millions of no's, but one yes will help you to achieve what you want. So don't give up.
Fantastic.
I wasn't prepared for this kind of question. Off the top of my head, I think future is a lot more about entrepreneurship than it is today. So if you are thinking about it, go for it. And yeah, that's it. I think it's going to be a lot more important.
I would say if you ever want to start a business or a service, or business with a product or a service, just start with using the lean startup model. Never wait until your product or service is made until perfection and then start. It's actually the other way around. Build a minimum viable product and start testing it as soon as possible. And what you will be looking for is product market fit. So if you realize that you have a product market fit, then only then continue working on it. But if you realize that you don't have a product market fit, then quit as soon as possible and just move towards the next idea.
Amazing. I want to thank my fellow panelists and open it up to questions.
I have a product market fit question for you, Sophia. Obviously, you have an interesting product, which I had the pleasure of trying anyway, try some more. But when did you know? Because that's a very atypical for most people in this room. You know, you think of software, you think of technology. So to you, where was that moment you said, okay, I have something here that can go big?
Honestly, it was back at university when I first developed the product, and my campus was 30,000 students. And just by one tasting, when we developed the product, the next day I was known over the whole campus as the back at the time, alcoholic ice cream girl. So then I realized that it actually has potential, because like even the dean, like, and all of a sudden like people from BBC or some downtown New York magazine came and they wanted actually to interview me. I wasn't ready at the time. It was like very, very early stage. But then I was like, okay, if like so much buzz is going on about tasting, simple tasting, then I really do have something. And that's what kept me to build and build and build. And there were lots of trials and perfections. So like I build a version of the product, I offer it, I gain feedback, I adapt it fast. That's how we were doing it all the time.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
This is more a question about some of the pitches we were listening to earlier. Everybody's worried that there's no technology moat anymore, so now everybody's thinking about the data moat, the data they can collect about their clients. But I worry what the risks are that you will see, that companies stop serving their actual customers and just start thinking of it as a process for generating data to sell to third parties. Like, how do you balance those two revenue opportunities?
Excellent question. And
Didn't quite understand it.
so, since the AI is everywhere, the differentiation in terms of your architecture is thinning out, and what most companies now or startups are trying to do is have a reliance on the capability of their data to act as a source of revenue. Whether you're aggregating, whether you're kind of anonymizing and selling on to other companies and so on. How do you feel about that, and how do you manage this relationship in your companies?
I will go first. I would say like when I first started, actually, it was like 2.5 years ago. By the time I was like pitching at California Land Recycling, there was a really old environmental lawyer. He came to me, he says like, even if you don't do anything, just make an API from the data that you are collecting and sell that, because people are needed. It's coming from different places. We are using 50+ data sets. But I would say like we kind of like have a patented way to do that. We are not aggregating the data, right? But still, whenever like I'm talking, especially these days with AI and stuff, you need to be very careful, because people like, we are dealing with insurance companies and real estate, it's sort of like liability, right? We don't want that. And we need to like consider, beside like having all of those data, all of great people, we need to consider all of the policies and rules. I would say always like having a lawyer is really helpful, because you need to know your rights, and you need to know how your data safety and security is really important. You need to know how you are going to address that. And I remember once someone told me, it was last year, 1.5 years ago, someone told me, why you guys are not selling your product to Zillow? Immediately I said, because we don't want liability issues. And then First Street starting to provide services to the Zillow, and we saw on December, everyone started a really huge court case against them, because homeowners, they said, like, you are just bringing the value of our property down by your risk assessment. So I would say like having and knowing your rights, especially like you cannot rely on AI for everything. You need human expertise. AI would like expedite the process for your data analysis and everything, but for data safety and security, you definitely need a good lawyer and someone who can take care of this stuff as a human manual process. We cannot do that with AI.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Definitely get your legal stuff straight. Also, with respect to the to the customers, it's one thing to, of course, take care of your legal issues, but it's another thing to build trust between you and your customer. Everything may be legally okay, but is your customer okay with that or not? Personally, I like that model when you use that data for the benefit, directly for the benefit of the customer herself. If I'm taking that data and I'm selling it to a third party for other purposes, that's not something that I would like to do. But if my customer is actually agreeing to give me his data so that I can give him more value add based on that data, I think that's both, morally speaking, legally speaking, that makes more sense, but also business-wise, I think if it fits into your business model, it can create a lot more value.
Yes, I mean, just to add up to all this, AI, of course, is very important thing that's happening right now, but what's even more important, especially for small and medium enterprises, is to actually use AI strategically, not just incorporate it within the company just because everyone else around it is using it, but actually think about the external factors that influence on your company as well as the internal factors that are driving your company and internal capabilities that you have, and only then use AI so that it speeds up maybe some of the processes or cut costs in some other processes. But if you ask me if AI is going to eliminate human jobs completely, no. There is going to be a shift, of course, but we as humans are going to adapt this technology, and in the same times, I believe that new job roles will actually appear, just as it was when the internet appeared and everyone started using it.
Great question, though, and yes, that data usage, obviously, when you're trying to maintain trust with your customers, it's important for that opt-in to be there. Everybody has to choose to share the data and choose which data to share. And it's always good if they see the benefits of that share, be it monetary or be it an improvement in some aspect of their lives. But great question.
Can I follow up on that? Because I don't know if this refers, I mentioned that earlier in the panel, and the technology is no longer remote. And I said that a lot of the companies we look at, we focus on the data, and I hope that wasn't misinterpreted, that we expect these companies to sell that data. We're leveraging the data to improve the product. So one of our companies, they're not here today, but it's an e-commerce recommendation engine that is also servicing a lot of products that are not. So the more their product is getting used, they can make better connections, even if you look back at the kind of early collaborative filtering where Amazon would say, people who bought this also bought this. Well, in order to do that, the technology is not complicated. But if you don't have enough data to make those connections, it's not valuable. So that's really, I think, where the data comes in, is that the usage improves the product, that becomes your mode, versus the technology that's powering it, because that's become commoditized.
Definitely. Thank you.
I would like to add something to Nico's point, because the way that we are using our models is like whenever someone is asking how accurate your prediction about property prices, about the risk assessment, we say like the more usage we have, the model will learn the pattern and it will help us more. But definitely, besides using the model and stuff, we are getting the feedback from our customers to see what they actually need data-wise. They are giving us the data, we appreciate them, but we want to build something using that data that's like fitting the market and addressing the gap. We never want to build something that's only like aggregating the data or just like, but having different data points and connecting the dots, I would say that's helping people to address the uncertainty better in every business.
Definitely. Other questions? Okay, well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you all again.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to staying connected and maybe helping with some of those asks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.